We have a great opportunity today to hear from actually two leaders in the travel industry that have a real implementation and a lot of insights. We had a conversation earlier, a lot of insights about how to design the bots for the travel industry and how to design real-life bots for brands. So, Anat, I'll start with you as you're leading the both the development of the bot and the communication manager at El Al, the Israeli airline. Could you share with us a little bit of what use cases you had for the bots at El Al?
Sure. First, lovely to be here, and I'd love to share with you. We at El Al are implementing a highly innovative solution. It's a hybrid bot experience, which enables us to actually ask customers, how can I help you? And to give service in all customer care use cases, and do it with a high scale and high customer experience.
Perfect. Yannick, for those of you who are not familiar, both Yannick work and his experience in SNCF, the French train company, is really kind of like insightful experience for people how to use in the travel industry a very successful focused bots or kind of like specific bots. Could you share with us a little bit how you implemented bots at SNCF?
Yes, thank you for having me, and nice to see you all. For those of you who don't know, the OUI SNCF is the digital platform where you can buy your train ticket in France. So what we did, how did we put our bot to the market? Well, first we decided to have an approach to directly go to the transactional side of the bot and go with a use case to allow users to book their train ticket. So it started 2014, I guess, with a hackathon internal. So we started to build something like it's where you have your engineers work for 1 day or two and do a proof of concept. And then we liked it, so we started to build our own bot platform. So we use our own technology to power our bots. And now, to answer your question, we are focusing on booking tickets. We have 22,000 reservations per month that use our bot system, so we're quite happy with it. And well, we decided to go with an narrow use case, and then we keep on expanding it.
So we see actually two very interesting but very different implementations. You implemented a more generic work for customer support to kind of like to supplement the customer service, and you applied a much more specific purpose bot primarily for transactions. Starting with you, Anat, knowing that the kind of interactions people have with the airline may vary from very different tasks and very different assignments, how do you manage a bot where we tend to have a high ratio of misunderstanding or high ratio of kind of like unclarity about intents of the users?
Well, you are right to the point. It's a big challenge to identify the intent as it is. We are using Service Friend. It's an Israeli startup, and they have an edge on the intent recognition with their patent. And more than this, it is more even difficult to identify sub-intents. So, but we are seeing an 80% intent recognition with 80% accuracy, and we transfer. We start with the bot answering, transfer to the agent to clarify the sub-intents, because even if you identify that you want to change a seat or something like that, there is still a lot of information going on, like I want to sit near my husband, things like that. So once you transfer from agent to bot, you can do this seamlessly, and the customer doesn't feel that transition.
I'm a little bit familiar with your service, which I think is very unique because you designed the bot intentionally to work in a hybrid mode. So meaning the bot is expected to work side by human agent and to offload a little bit of the task. Could you share a little bit about the experience of how is it for the humans that now are kind of like being managed or co-working side by side with the bot?
The agents, you're referring to the agents, yes. So the initial, once the customer approaches, then it starts with the bot. That he doesn't know he's talking to a bot, and he gets a first response that can lead to resolution or not. We provide contextual response. Then it comes with this information to the agent, which gets rid of the information from the customer and gets suggestions of answers from the bot. And he doesn't even have to type his answers. He's suggested with this. And we're seeing 70% of the answers of the agents are not typed. The agents are loving the system.
So you developed a very interesting, and I think it could be an interesting case model, also requires a lot of analytics around the hybrid model of a human side by side with a bot and the co-working environments of bots with humans. I think, Yannick, for you, it's very interesting because given that it's a specific booking or transaction bot, I wonder what the experience that you have between the individual working with a bot and referring it to the agent, to kind of like the purchasing agents, and what would be the triggers or the kind of experience you would expect in that?
Well, the first thing is when we engage the conversation, like for example, our bot is available on Facebook Messenger. So if you talk to us through Facebook Messenger, you will start with the bot. The bot will be the front-facing entry. So first thing we say, we tell our clients that it is a bot that's answering. So we ask him if it's okay or if we'd like to speak to an agent. So there's a first branching path there. If he wishes to continue with the bot, we have developed some triggers to see when the conversation is broken, like when the bot and the human don't understand each other, or when the human goes to the part where the bot is not able to answer, which is not part of what he knows what to do. And at this point, we switch to a human agent so that the conversation is not broken and they can continue to engage with the brand.
Yannick, here I want to focus on two decisions you took, which I think are interesting. First, you decided to make it very visible and known to your customers that they are talking to the bot. So it's a very transparent bot, rather than a seamless bot that I don't know that I'm talking to a bot. Could you share with us a little bit about the decision from the brand perspective, why you make it transparent, why you decide that actually it will be visible to us that we're talking to a bot?
Well, I think first it's a question of transparency, but you said it. Second, it's a bit of humility, because we know that we're designing a bot, it's an emerging technology, so we know we won't be able to satisfy all the user requests, so the people have to know there's a bot. Then there's underlying subject of creating the brand, creating the brand with the bot. So we named the bot, so that's one of the big questions in the industry. Should we name the bot, or does the bot have the name of the brand? We choose to name it. In order to translate the brand to the conversational era. We spoke about it a bit later. There's the big issue with brand identity when it comes to vocal conversation. Like if you see brand, like at first when there was the first brand, it's on the headquarters, then it's on the product, then it's on the website, and you can recognize the brand. When you speak to vocal interface, none of this exists anymore, so that's another issue. How do you exist in a conversational-only experience?
Anat, there's a very interesting point that I think covered a lot in this conference is the multi-channel. Kind of like which channel I would expect this kind of interaction. I know that you decided to pick, at least the beginning implementations, as kind of like a hidden corners of the websites, but gradually expanding to the platforms. Could you share a little bit kind of like what the reasons to expand, which platforms you feel that this experience works better for you?
We are entirely focusing on messaging. And we feel that the adoption of messaging is so high. And to have a personal agent, this is what we're doing. When you have a WhatsApp available to you, and you can just ask your questions, whatever you need, before booking a flight, after, once you're in another country. When you have this messaging platform available to you, you can feel like you have a personal agent. So this is what we are doing, and it's very, very in high scale.
But here comes the question. I think you present two different approaches in terms of the personality of the bot and the experience. The halal experience is that, I don't know, it's a bot, it's a seamless experience, certainly doesn't have a separate personality. And with you, you're kind of like going towards the, I think, Cohen trend is saying, we want you to feel that there is a personality. You're talking to a bot, but creating a personality, and there's also a lot of branding exercise in that. Could each one of you share kind of like your thoughts, why you choose this direction, and if so, how one can actually benefit from this branding activity around the bot?
Well, that's what I was starting to say just before. It's for us, the issue is to how do we exist to the customer, how we exist to the eyes of the customer when there is no logo. That's one of the main issues we are trying to tackle. So yeah, we choose we're starting actually to work on the brand, and so there's a lot of work involved. That's interesting because it changed the work of like we always say that artificial intelligence impact the jobs of a lot of people, but it changes all the brands of classic marketing agency, for example. So now the thing is to work on what's the tonality of the bot. Is it a playful bot? Is it a very formal bot? How does he address his client? Then when we go to the voice, what kind of voice does he have? So this is those kind of challenge. We haven't finished to explore them yet, but we are starting in the process of thinking about it. So what is the personality, the core personality of the bot, and how do we want them to interface with the client?
Here, I have a tough question for the travel industry. Often our experience with the travel industry that we tend to express a lot of emotions and sentiment. We are upset with the flight being canceled. We are upset with not getting over the right seat. I don't know, we find difficulty to find the flight that we had. How in a bot environment where we know that sentiment is not expressed as easily or as expressly, you can deal with the sentiment and the sentiment analysis in directing the customer flow?
First of all, it's important to say that messaging is, by definition, already a personal feel. Once you are messaging, even if it's with an organization, you get a personal feel. Especially in our case, where it's seamless. So you get the feeling, but you're not sure because there is a person. Once we do sentiment analysis and urgency analysis, and once we promote, we can transfer you to a more forward you faster to get faster service, and also to a more skilled team member. So you get high service. So
the sentiment and urgency analysis would actually be part of the calculation in prioritizing the service. But will also be a consideration to divert from the bot environment to human environment, given that, I don't know, I'm very upset now, there's an urgency, I have a flight now, yes, that's the time for human.
Yes, also urgency. All these, that's why messaging is once you are not online like a website, sure. in messaging you can do all these calculations and enjoy the asynchronous of the channel.
Understood. How would you use sentiment analysis and urgency analysis in your service?
Actually, for the moment, we don't use it, but it's something we are looking into it. So we don't use it for the moment, but it's something we want to do at some point.
Cool. Now, a little bit about the voice versus text interface. There's a lot of discussion here in the summit whether people actually by default would choose the text format or would use actually a more human conversation and the sound. Did you have exploration or experience around kind of like whether shifting to a more human conversation or voice conversations?
I think it's very, very interesting, and I think messaging is great, but again, when you're driving, you need voice, and when something is really, really urgent, you will need voice, just like in life. things that are less important or urgent we can do by text, and some things we need to communicate by voice. I think it's very challenging because, as we see even in text, it's very challenging intent recognition and all the sub-nuances of an intent. We're starting to look into it. We'll see what the future brings.
Were you exploring voice, or it's still permanent?
Yeah, we're exploring. We actually have our bot is live on the Google Home and Alexa, so we are into it. What's interesting when designing for voice is that it changed your approach. Like, you think you did a great job building a text-based bot, so you're happy, and then you start to put it on the voice, feeling maybe, hey, we just need a text-to-speech module and that's it. But no, it doesn't work that way, because like the human mind doesn't react well. It's also the same with Word. For example, in the text-based chatbot, we could show like 6 results. Like when planning for train tickets, it's hard. You need to take into account the timetable, the time length, the length of the trip, the price, etc. So we couldn't give all those information in one sentence to the client, otherwise his mind would melt. So we had to review all the design, all the UX design, and start with more focused approach, like saying, yeah, okay, you want to go from Paris to Lyon, here's a train, here's one proposition, what do you feel about it? Okay, you want to go later, before, and iterating much more with the client, as the human mind statistics shows that you can recall at like 2 or 3 main information when you have.
So your message is actually, when you had even a very successful bot text one, it's not just converting it to speech, it's a different exercise, altogether a different exercise to build.
Back to the drawing board, yes.
Now, I think to a big question that is relevant for the travel industry. We know that in the travel industry, huge tech is devoted around personalization, in understanding whether I want the cheaper flight or the more expensive, whether kind of like I have more tolerance to more legs in the flight or not. And all this normally is lost in a kind of like generic bot experience. How we see the industry building more personalized and customized bots that connect the data with the bot experience?
Well, firstly, as I mentioned, the experience is personal, and like you have a personal travel agent. We're working currently on connecting with the CRM data. So once you write us a WhatsApp, we already know who you are, we'll know your past experience profile, and can offer you better service and sell.
So would you end up actually creating a customized journey for me, knowing that, I don't know, I would pick the more expensive flight, I would pick differentiated routes, so it'll end up to be that the bot would customize the script. Would it also use a different language for each person?
I don't know about a different language, but certainly in terms of product and past purchases, then of course then then we would offer you. This is our direction.
Sure. Another thing that comes to mind in the travel industry. What's the play between the service provider, the direct service providers, and the platforms? Because I think a lot of the travel products are not sold directly on the train company or on the airline company, but you actually have most of the experience externally, as I'm buying it in Booking, Kayak, and others. How do you integrate your brand and what you care about customer support, where a lot of it is actually being consumed on other platforms?
Yeah, that's the nice thing with the chatbot. We'll often call them as well a personal assistant, which is maybe the dream of many people, to have someone caring to your every need. So that's what we're trying to build, because when you're planning for a trip, there's a different phase. When you're going on a trip, there's the planning, the first phase, we say, okay, I want to go there, but I'm not sure. Then you book, then you prepare for travel, then you travel, etc., etc. And the idea is that the chatbot can guide our customers through all those steps, from preparation to booking to when it's traveling. Like, for example, when you book even if you don't book through the bot, you can push your confirmation email to Facebook Messenger, and afterwards, Facebook our bot will re-engage you just before. I'm finishing just before the trip, like saying, hey, your platform, you can take the train at this platform. So the idea is to build a continuous experience between the brand and the customer.
I think it was very insightful to learn from two experts in the industry about kind of like how real brands are doing it, primarily in the travel industry. I think we learned a lot about the human-to-board experience, the hybrid experience, the intent recognition, keeping the brand, kind of like what platforms it would be relevant, what's the process of development. Thank you very much. I think it was very insightful, and
thank you.
I'm sure people would like to continue the conversation at the party tonight with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.